So hello everyone from the Kingdom of Thailand. For the last video I am recording in 2022. Now this isn't the last video I'm going to be releasing in 2022 because there are actually videos coming out next week. But this is the last one releasing before Christmas, and it's also the one where I'm just kind of like rounding up the year. Now, last year I did a roundup of 2021, and that one was a bit more fun because there were so many hilarious moments to actually talk about. So we had obviously Sam Cedar owning Steven Crowder. We had Zack Snyder going on the Geeks and Gamers live stream and like calling them out. Like that is personally my favorite moment of last year.
Just a quick thing before we get started. I know that on our donation page, we still have the Geeks and Gamers logo. I just want to say that I really we talked about this, and we're really not affiliated with Geeks and Gamers as far as I'm concerned, and I really just want to make that clear. And I also want to just say, in light of recent events, I think we really, if Justice League teaches us anything, it's about coming together, and there's no room for hate.
No matter who we're talking to after what I just listened to Zack Snyder do to me, and I do believe he slandered me.
We had various other things that were all a lot of fun, but this year, although we did have some of those moments and we have had a lot of insanity, I kind of wanted to focus on a trend in terms of the videos I made this year. So someone said they're sick of these videos now, but I always think they're good, and this is like a finale to all of them. It's why have fans of conservative commentators and Joe Rogan, who I guess is kind of a conservative commentator at this point, why have they suddenly turned on these figures in large numbers? Like, why are there so many people who are fans of Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk? Why have they now abandoned them? Now, you know those Simpsons episodes, which are like mid-season finales, I think, or something, where they're just like flashback episodes? What this video is going to kind of be like is that. So you're going to see a lot of clips of older videos I've made, but mainly what I'm going to show you is not me talking on camera and giving like a verdict or an opinion. It's mainly just showing you the comments coming out against certain political figures or political commentators, and then we're just going to speculate about why this has happened, and is there any patterns? Like, is there something that links all the fan bases of these conservatives turning on them, or is it all just individual little case studies which have no relation to each other? And then maybe at the end, I'll just talk a tiny bit about the year I've had, I guess, if we have any time, but the video is mainly going to be focused on all these topics. But before we go any further, please like the video, and in the comments, please give me your favorite moment of 2022 in relation to more like politics or politics adjacent. It doesn't have to be something that happened in like the halls of Congress, but something that is in relation to maybe stuff that you've encountered on my channel. I'd say my favorite thing this year, it just popped into my head right now when I was asking that question. I'm not going to say about the political topic it was about, but the discourse around Turning Red movie reviews, shall we say, was so funny. That probably is my favorite moment. Like, imagine making such an insane movie review, like the whole internet turns you into the main character, and like I made a video about it and how ridiculous it was, so go check that out. But again, that has to be probably my favorite moment of 2022. And also, I guess, Metal Gear Rising making an absolutely massive comeback, like all the memes, all the songs. I made my own video essay about it, and I guess I'm pretty disappointed. That is one of my worst performing videos of the year, but I did love that stuff as well. So let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite? So politically, 2022 has been a very chaotic year. I feel like we say that like every year now, but this one, for me personally, has felt more, I guess, dark and maybe more of a doomer just because of the state of UK politics. We did have pretty hilarious stuff, and I guess this is one of my favorite moments of the year. The reaction to the Queen's death was absolutely insane, and it was just so fucking funny. Just like the way people were publicly mourning, so embarrassing. This woman who was so old, lived a life of like insane luxury, had every privilege, did nothing for the country as well, and people were absolutely bawling their eyes out. While I escaped on a plane to Vietnam, she literally died while I was on the plane to Vietnam, which is so ironic. Of course, we had 3 prime ministers in the UK. Liz Truss crashed the UK economy. Now we have a hedge fund manager running the UK as well. So that's all nice. And we have loads of strikes at the moment, which is good, but it's not good because it's in reaction to how poorly so many vital workers are being paid. But I guess a silver lining to all that stuff in terms of politics, it's been very fun to see conservative political commentators have their audiences turn on them. So I thought to start with, we have to look at Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk, and it will make sense when we finish why I lump these two together, besides the point that Jordan Peterson keeps simping for Elon Musk, and Elon Musk obviously unbanned Jordan Peterson from Twitter. And I guess these two are linked together is because they previously had more positive reputations before absolutely tanking them. And it's all their own fault, right? They have no one else to blame but themselves. So with Jordan Peterson, we'll start with him. Of course, I've made whole videos about this, so go check them out. But Jordan Peterson is an interesting one because, as I said in my video about this stuff, I've been making content on YouTube for nearly 5 years. When I started making Jordan Peterson videos in 2018, I used to get loads and loads of pushback. People saying I was taking him out of context. I couldn't call him a conservative. I couldn't say like he was wrong or paranoid about Marxism and stuff like that. I just didn't get it, bro. But a lot of people love Jordan Peterson. Like I referenced that H3 video where Ethan and Hila Klein are pretty positive about him, talking about how great he is. And to be honest, as much as I've always said he has never really changed in terms of substance, he did change in terms of demeanor. If you watch his old like interviews in like 2018, 2017, it's clear this guy is in a more mentally stable place than he is now. And although he was always attacking the woke left and stuff like that, I guess he tried to have a bit more nuance, but of course he went through like various struggles of addiction, a medically induced coma, and then of course kept going more and more to the conservative side and firmly planting himself in the conservative side. But the problem being is, although Jordan Peterson has always been very political, he didn't necessarily build his public image on being a conservative political commentator, right? So loads of people love Jordan Peterson and loads of people loved him originally for his bad self-help books and also his lectures about psychology, religion, philosophy, and all of that stuff, right? Because he's a university professor. So a lot of people loved him for all of that stuff, and the anti-woke thing was either something they could ignore, or it was actually a benefit because he agreed politically with his conservative fans. But like a lot of people, I feel like the pandemic really broke Jordan Peterson's brain. Like he seemed to be addicted to Twitter, posting medical misinformation, retweeting all sorts of far-right conspiracy theories and far-right people. And then, of course, he got into more controversy in terms of like dead naming Elliot Page a bunch, getting banned off Twitter, and also joining the Daily Wire, right? And so a lot of us on the left, we don't really see anything too controversial about that. It seems like a natural fit for Jordan Peterson, but we aren't Jordan Peterson fans. We haven't been fans of him for anything, really. So to a lot of people, this came as a massive shock. Like they were pretty outraged that Jordan Peterson had basically traded in being like a conservative guy who had nuance to firmly planting his flag in the far-right American conservative camp. And his audience really didn't like it. So I'm going to play you some clips of me reading the comments from his own subreddit where his own fans are attacking him. I unsubscribed. Jordan Peterson has become a meme. He joined the Daily Wire. I might listen to his podcast on Spotify, but his YouTube videos have not been interesting lately. Gravitated towards JP because of his authenticity. We can still appreciate all he has done, but as for his legacy, I see it diminishing as he keeps doubling down on these reckless, ego-driven tirades. He got his name for being on the forefront of just causes, but seems to be trying too hard to replicate such happening. What is happening to JP? Yeah, I left the JP train a while ago. Now I'm just here because I find it funny how his fan base is starting to get really concerned. So they clearly don't like his descent into being like more political, especially more explicitly far-right conservative. But one thing that was so funny and turned them all against him was his opinion on the war in Ukraine. And basically, why did Russia wage this war? Why did Russia invade Ukraine? And it basically united all of his fans against him. I think in a Daily Wire video, or for the Daily Wire Plus or whatever, or maybe even on his own YouTube channel, I forget now. Basically, he made a video talking about why this happened. And he's talking a lot about John Mearsheimer. So John Mearsheimer is a realist international relations theorist, someone I learned about in my international relations masters. And a lot of people don't like John Mearsheimer because of the way he analyzes international relations through the realism school in terms of like power dynamics between superpowers. A lot of people really didn't like how he framed it as more like NATO provoking this reaction and really kind of not talking about the role of Putin's own ideology on Ukraine as much. So Jordan Peterson talked about that a bit. But then he also said the reason that Putin did this is because he's waging a war against a degenerate woke leftist ideology by invading Ukraine. I'll play you a tiny bit of him talking about this, and I'll show you the comments.
Are we degenerate in a profoundly threatening manner? I think the answer to that may well be yes. The idea that we are ensconced in a culture war has become a rhetorical commonplace. How serious is that war? Is it serious enough to increase the probability that Russia, say, will be motivated to invade and potentially incapacitate Ukraine merely to keep the pathological West out of that country? And the culture war is now truly part of why we have a war. And so the Russians believe that they have a moral duty, and that they have the highest moral duty to oppose the degenerate ideas, philosophy, theology of the West. And there's something about that that is not wrong.
So the first thing I want to read, what a tool Jordan Peterson has become. As an Eastern European, please think about how this situation affects Estonians, Lithuanians, Latvians, Poles, and Ukrainians. If Russia's sphere of influence should be respected, that means you reject the right of those nations' self-determination. No one cares about an American culture war in Eastern Europe. Why is he even talking about black women being considered candidates for some jury and his tweets about it? This debate doesn't exist over here, and trying to connect it to the war with Russia is beyond ridiculous. For God's sake, Poland has a conservative government Jordan would love, but they are extremely hawkish on Russia. The recent ramblings by Jordan is extremely hurtful, and I hope people will not go easy on the criticism just because he wrote a popular self-help book. Seriously, this dude's completely lost it. A lot of intellectuals and academic types think that because they're experts in one field, they can suddenly jump into another. Sadly, the culture war has consumed many people's mind and turned them insane to the point where they become counters to what they believe in. I've seen this happen with so many people from various backgrounds. The video was sadly the turning point for me. The man has completely lost it. His takes on this issue are just plain ridiculous and low-key propaganda. Same here, his old stuff is still good, but this is the line. Something very fishy is going on with him. So support for Ukraine is something that unites like a lot of the political spectrum, especially in the West, apart from a lot of people on the right wing who weirdly support Russia and think that's like anti-imperialist. You see a lot of those types like Jimmy Dore and others who say this stuff, right? And a lot of American conservatives don't support Ukraine because basically Biden supports them, right? If Donald Trump was supporting them, they would support Ukraine, but because Biden is, they don't like all the money being spent in Ukraine. But Jordan Peterson is kind of mixing both of them, and of course, absolutely outraging his fans, and a lot of them are just absolutely done with him after these two things, right? Becoming way more political and saying really dumb stuff like this, having your brain so rotted by the culture war, you think an actual physical war, which has nothing to do with American culture war politics, is Russia fighting like woke ideology or something. Now, around this time, Jordan Peterson couldn't stop catching L's because he made another video called Message to Muslims, right? So I covered this a bit more recently, and it was so amazing in what he was telling them to do. Basically, no nuance about anything, stereotyping all Muslims as really like inherently violent people who needed the savior Jordan Peterson to tell them how to act. And then all his Muslim followers then turned on him, and this wasn't helped even more by a meeting he had and a dinner he had with Ben Shapiro and Benjamin Netanyahu, which caused even more of his Muslim followers to turn on him. So let me just show you a couple clips from this video. Sitting down to dinner with Netanyahu. So he posted this on his Instagram on the 10th of November, had about 200,000 likes, but literally go on this yourselves. I'm not making this up. I didn't edit this. Every single comment in order is actively turning against him. So here's one. How can you criticize Trudeau so hard, rightfully so, and not put any critique next to this post against Netanyahu? You should have stayed true to what you've said. You should uphold the morals you teach in front of everyone. A handshake that's stained with blood. With all the knowledge and intellect you possess, how do you fail to see the corruption and the evil they hold and gruesome vile acts they vomit against Palestinians? It's so sad to see you there. What the F, man? You lost a lot of people's respect. How come you haven't noticed anything wrong during your time there? Jordan Peterson is a good man. He's sitting with a wrong person. It's such a shame. How can a mind so great be so easily deceived? I'm glad these people are waking up. I genuinely believe Peterson is concerned about the flourishing of mankind against the repressive powers of tyranny. Yet here he is in bed with a tyrant. It does seem quite bizarre that Jordan Peterson would even have Muslim fans, considering some of the stuff he said about Muslims and the people he allies himself with, but he did have a lot of Muslim fans. I talked about it in the video. I talked about why he appealed to them on some level, some for the anti-woke, anti-feminist, anti-LGBT angle, others for the psychology and self-help. So I don't know how many of his old fans have been replaced by new, like, American conservatives, but it's safe to say that the appeal Jordan Peterson had and the more widespread appeal he had is now gone, right? All of these people turning on him, all of these people being done with him is because Jordan Peterson has basically forsaken anything which gave him mass appeal and is just like, I'm going to be a right-wing culture war warrior now. I'm just going to be another talking head on the Daily Wire. I might give it some academic, I guess, credibility, but beyond that, I'm not really going to talk about the old stuff. I'm just going to stay on Twitter all day, 24/7, tweeting at random people. And that's a nice segue to Elon Musk, who has also been doing this for years, being on Twitter 24/7, tweeting at random people. And Elon Musk is someone we've covered a lot more recently. I'm not going to dive into this as extensively, but I just want to talk about it in comparison to Jordan Peterson. But even me and my girlfriend were talking about this yesterday, and I've said it in previous videos. Like 10 years ago, most people had a pretty positive opinion of Elon Musk. He had a net positive opinion. Even maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, he definitely did. People liked him because he had this propaganda machine which said that he was a Tony Stark in real life, right? He was going to invent all these things to help humanity. He was going to save us from climate change with overpriced Tesla cars. He was going to take us to Mars and be the king of the Mars colony and stuff like that. And also, similarly, I've also called out Elon Musk for about 5 years as well. So Kavernacle is always right when it comes to matters of either self-help gurus like Jordan Peterson or people like Elon Musk. And I'm also betting I'm right about Mr. Beast as well. And don't worry, in about 5 years' time, we're going to look back at my Mr. Beast videos and everyone's going to say, wow, Kavernacle was right again. But Elon Musk, of course, has gained a lot of controversy in the last 5 years, since 2018. Of course, his comments about some of the people involved in rescuing that like Thai football team, and then of course becoming more and more outwardly conservative. And then just like Jordan Peterson, I don't think the pandemic broke his brain, because I think Elon Musk has always been a terrible guy, but he hated the lockdown restrictions. He hated the restrictions on how many people you could put in a factory. So then he started saying stuff like the pandemic would be over within a month, and then he started saying he was going to move everything to Texas, and he was saying that all these lockdowns are pointless, and now he started talking about like prosecuting Fauci and stuff. What drives Elon Musk's agenda is a need to be liked, and that's basically why he bought Twitter. It seemed like he was trying to buy it as like a meme, but then he actually put an offer in and they accepted, and then he got stuck with it. He didn't want it, right? He was being sued when he tried to back out of the deal, but because so much embarrassing stuff was coming to light, because they were showing his private correspondence, like all his text messages and emails, he then thought, well, it's actually worth it to buy this. But now he's running Twitter into the ground while also pandering massively to his new conservative audience. And as we've covered in previous videos, this has alienated a lot of his fans. A lot of his fans liked him for SpaceX, they liked him for Tesla, they bought Tesla cars, they bought Tesla stock, which he's tanking right now at the moment. It's actually so funny to see the graph the last like year or so. And they were in it because they were capitalists, but they were capitalists who believed this billionaire could use the capitalist system to throw us into the future and to save humanity, essentially. But just like Jordan Peterson, with him firmly becoming embroiled in the culture war and pandering to Republicans, his mass appeal is definitely going. Like, because people who liked him for X, Y, and Z, they don't like him anymore. I've seen loads of people who are fans of Tesla or SpaceX saying, I hope he just resigns and leaves the company so I can like these companies and their goals still, and I don't have to deal with Elon Musk's insane politics, and basically exposing to the world how much of a man baby he is and how everything he has ever done in his life is due to a desire to be liked by as many people as possible. Honestly, it's pretty embarrassing, but you can see the similarities between him and Jordan Peterson. Two people who had a mass appeal, probably had a net positive public opinion, and then by firmly forsaking anything that gave a mass appeal and just becoming far-right conservatives publicly, they alienated so many of their new fans, but they did get legions of new fans, and we'll see how that goes for them. So moving on to someone who is a big fan of both these people, and that is Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan's descent into the right has been something that has also been accelerated by the pandemic. I've always had problems with Joe Rogan, like getting the worst conservatives on and letting them to speak without challenge. But to be fair to him, he also did used to get some left-wing people on and some people who didn't just agree with everything he said about the pandemic, for example, right? At the start of the pandemic, he got on, I think, like a virologist who told people what it was going to be like, told people, you know, how we would deal with this, and it was going to be hard, but we get through it, and told people about, you know, vaccines and stuff like that. And Joe Rogan started talking about how there were so many crazy people who wouldn't take them. And of course, he also had people like Andrew Yang on in the past, and even Elon Musk, where they spoke about UBI. And I have my own problems with UBI. There are like forms of it proposed by people in the socialist wing of the Labour Party, I think is pretty decent. But the Elon Musk and Andrew Yang version, which essentially is a mass subsidy for consumer capitalism, is something I don't agree with, right? But a lot of people do like that. And a lot of people would say, if I can have some extra money from the government every month, I'd take that, right? And that would help my situation. But Joe Rogan's audience have now had enough. And I think this year was the year they're just like, I can't deal with him anymore. He's just turned into such a stupid right-winger. Now, there are various clips of him basically just like inventing scenarios and trying to double down them. So there was one clip of him basically saying in Australia, you couldn't grow your own food anymore. And it seems that he just read this on a Facebook post. When he asked Jamie to bring that up, Jamie couldn't bring that up.
Do you find anything?
You are now dependent upon the state.
Passes bill.
I mean, I know what to look for. Nothing's coming up. The closest thing I could find was something like this. That's not
New
what
food. No, it's not.
saying.
It's not New
New
Zealand.
Zealand.
It's in Australia.
I know, but this is close.
New Zealand is like right around the corner.
Could have.
It's got to be a real thing. It seems too good to not be.
It's obviously.
I typed in outlaw growing food in Australia, and not a single thing comes up.
Hold on.
Except for that, which was a false thing.
Yeah, I can't find it either.
And this went viral on the Joe Rogan subreddit, and everyone was like, this guy just wanted this to be right. And it just shows his whole mindset now in that he had it in for Australia. He hated Australia's like pandemic restrictions. So he just believed anything he read on Facebook and then started acting like it was true. And then, of course, Joe Rogan also came out against UBI. So his audience like completely turned on him. So I hopefully got some footage and comments for you here.
What's the monthly payment stuff that they're going to come out with?
Universal
basic income.
I just think that was a good idea before the pandemic. During the pandemic, when everybody's getting the money from the government, people didn't want to work. And I was like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not smart. I don't think it's a good idea to give everybody $1,200. I think some people need a fire lit under their ass. And if you want to make more exceptional people in this country, I don't think the way to do that is to give everybody $1,200.
Who can survive off $1,000 a month? You would still need to work. Yeah, Joe, everyone quit their jobs and stopped working because they got $2,000 from the government that one time. That's a genius take. I'm so surprised that rich dude doesn't want people to get help. He is likely on the take to say stuff like this. Rogan work ethic, quit construction after a few weeks, quit security job because it got too hard. Joe thinks what he does is work. Lamau, I'm not saying it's easy or not hard to be in his position, but he definitely wouldn't survive any minimum wage job at this point. He's gone soft. I'd like to see Joe work a normal minimum wage construction job for 12 hours a day and then try and say UBI isn't needed. Work 10 times harder than he is now and he still can't feed his family. So there you see a lot of his audience like finally having enough of him. Because regardless if you like Joe Rogan or not, it is pretty clear, at least from like 2018 to 2020, he did like kind of present himself as like a fairly tolerant, progressive guy. Not someone who was particularly smart, but could have a good interview, could take in left-wing ideals without being an idiot, and of course not doubting like very well-established medical science when it came to things like the pandemic, for example. But it's clear with his move to Texas, it's clear with him pandering way more to conservatives, it's clear that the pandemic has firmly shifted him to the right wing, and that is now his audience. Like, it was always a meme, people who listen to Joe Rogan are like idiots, but now you have this really toxic political element added in, and then you can see why some fans of his, previous fans, have now turned on him. And as someone who wouldn't consider myself a fan, but could, watch the odd Joe Rogan podcast if he had a guest I liked on, I think in 2020, I watched like Oliver Stone and Edward Norton. I thought those were pretty good. Like, I had a pretty good conversation with them. I could see why people like Joe Rogan in general. I would never, ever even consider watching him now, no matter who it was. I just find him to be such an idiot now. And of course, spreading dangerous medical misinformation and just generally being an absolute knucklehead. But I would say the audience of Joe Rogan is probably more diverse than the others we spoke about. And I can understand why they turn on him a bit quicker than people like Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk. Now, we're going to talk about a more like specific case, but I think it says so much about the conservative movement. So I don't need to go over again the stuff Kanye West has been saying lately, right? I've made multiple videos about it. We've covered it a lot on this channel. And we've also made a video on this only like 2 weeks ago, I believe. So I'm not going to spend loads of time going over this one, but I'm just going to talk about kind of like my thoughts on it, right? So, of course, I made videos talking about Kanye West and how gross everything he said is. Ben Shapiro was one of the few conservatives that came out, I guess, fairly strongly against him in terms of like how other conservatives criticized Kanye, but really not strong enough in my opinion. And I criticized Ben Shapiro a lot for that. Basically, he posted on Instagram that Kanye West should be removed from the spotlight because this man clearly needs help and he doesn't need a camera in his face. And he posted that on Instagram, and how did his fans react? Well, most of them reacted like this. I'm not joking. Go on this post. 90% of the comments, maybe more, are all calling him out. They're all disagreeing with Ben Shapiro for calling out Kanye West for that Alex Jones interview. This is insane. So I strongly disagree with you. Over 1,000 likes. In a world full of lies, the truth is going to sound crazy. Over 2,000 likes. Boo. I beg to differ. Untrue. Rethink your post. He is speaking truth and not wrong. Sounds like a soft suggestion for censorship, Ben. I question some of his views, but he's generally dropping a lot of truth. Unlike most who just toe the accepted narrative, we've been lied to about so much, I'm going to enjoy all the coming celebrity meltdowns. Big L from Shapiro. Nah, Ye is literally talking about what happens behind the curtains, and you'll ridicule him. No, I believe he's speaking the truth about the way Hollywood manipulates people and controls them. He said that he was able to break free from the billion-dollar contracts with one tweet. Pretty genius in my opinion. Truth hurts. Shut up. Not true. Disagree. Bait him on it. Talk it out. Facts over feelings right. Oh, we all stand with Kanye West. Yay, speaking facts. Oh, Ben, the most entertaining controlled opposition out there. Why? Because he says things you don't like. You got that wrong. Good way of proving him right, Lamau. Stop hating. You know that man is telling the truth. Rare Ben L. I literally couldn't even believe what I was reading when I saw that Instagram post for the first time. But it makes so much sense to me, right? Because Ben Shapiro has constantly given a pass to some of the worst anti-Semites in the conservative movement to focus on anti-Israel critics and call them anti-Semites. Like he says that about Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, but he struggles to call out people on the right as much. People like Jordan Peterson pushing cultural Marxism. Ben Shapiro doesn't care about that. Loads and loads of Christian, Zionist, and Republicans in America, extremely anti-Semitic. Doesn't care about that as much. It's only if you're a critic of Israel, he gets pretty outraged. But he's always been in this conservative ecosystem. And obviously, this conservative ecosystem is mainly conservative Christian. There are a few conservative Jews in there, of course, the prominent ones being Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager. But other than that, it's dominated by white conservative Christians. And at the end of the day, as they slide increasingly to the far right, I'd respect Ben Shapiro a lot more if Donald Trump was where he drew the line, because Donald Trump, of course, has a Jewish son-in-law, and Ivanka Trump actually converted to Judaism, but he also ushered in people like Stephen Bannon into his administration as like his campaign manager and top advisor. These people who are like deeply, deeply anti-Semitic. America First itself is really anti-Semitic generally, and Ben Shapiro has not only given that a pass, but he's helped it thrive and he's helped it rise. So when Kanye West starts saying insane things about Jewish people, well, to a lot of the America First crowd who also watch Ben Shapiro, it doesn't really sound too insane anymore. Because in the conservative worldview, they might like Ben Shapiro for all the hateful rhetoric he says, but at the end of the day, he's still a Jewish man, and to a lot of people in the America First movement, there is not room for Jews in an America First world. But that case is a bit different, where Ben Shapiro has cultivated such a far-right audience that when he makes a mild criticism of literally the most insane anti-Semitism we've seen a public figure in recent memory, like most of his audience turn on him. So it's a funny one to end with, because it's literally like the opposite of the others we spoke about, where in the case of Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Jordan Peterson, they cultivated an audience from across the political spectrum, probably not as many left-wing people, but of course many liberal people. And they did that through talking about many things, not just politics. Obviously, Jordan Peterson, like I said, religion, psychology, self-help. Elon Musk, science fiction, climate change, green energy, space and stuff like that. Joe Rogan, MMA fighting, sports, acting, comedy, and sometimes politics as well. But what happened as America became increasingly divided, and part of it was they saw where the wind was blowing, they're like, I can pick a side to join and I can firmly plant myself down on one side. I don't have to be a centrist anymore. I don't have to be an independent conservative. I'm just going to go far right American conservative, and that's my new audience because that is where the audience is these days, and there aren't as many liberals and leftists who watch my content, so I'm going to go in that direction. With Ben Shapiro, he pretty much has always been the same. He's just been a bit gutless in calling out Donald Trump, but now he's reaping what he sows, that they can't even condemn Kanye West. So I guess the remaining question is, why 2022? Why is 2022 the time that their fan bases woke up to the reality? And I think I outlined for you pretty clearly. It's because the mask has gone off, right? There is no plausible deniability. If you go on Elon Musk's Twitter right now, everyone he replies to is like on the far right in America. Most of Joe Rogan's political talking points are compatible with an American conservative worldview, and Jordan Peterson is basically just lost his mind, tweeting a ton of far right conspiracy theories and just general, and far right talking points, retweeting people even like Tommy Robinson onto his timeline. Clear that a lot of these fan bases just cannot lie to themselves anymore, and they also cannot remove the political element from it anymore because it's just staring you in the face. Like, there's no way you can like Elon Musk or Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan anymore without actually liking their politics because it's such a big part of their public identity now. And then there was a hilarious post on the Jordan Peterson subreddit where a guy said he went on a date with a girl, recommended she read Jordan Peterson, and she just left the date. And when that's the reality of publicly supporting these people, I guess that's why so many people are abandoning them. So I guess that is one of the more interesting trends I've seen this year, and just a nice recap for the end of the year to talk about these conservative figures. So a lot of you are probably going to jump ship now because I've talked about the political stuff, I've talked about 2022, and now I just want to talk about like me personally as a YouTuber, how I felt about 2022, how I felt personally just about a variety of things. I've actually got a video coming out next week talking about the reality of like being a YouTuber and mental health, so I will try not to reiterate many of the things I've said, but just get a bit personal about my YouTube channel, right? I did so well last year on YouTube. I was feeling really, really good about 2022, but 2022 has actually been quite a struggle. You guys will know I've lived outside of the UK for 7 of the 12 months this year, and getting used to like working in another country and all the problems of living in like various apartments with like walls that are really thin, loads of construction going on, and just, I guess, being completely removed from my typical environment. Like, obviously, all my friends back home cannot play football, cannot exercise properly, cannot do the usual things I've done in the past. Spain was a bit different, but obviously in Asia, not eating the things I would eat so much at home. It's been a bit of a learning process, but I have been grateful for the process and learning how to like deal with all that stuff. And like the stress of like moving around and like finding new sets. Like, you guys who've watched over the last 5 months, every month I have a different kind of set for my YouTube channel, and it's just been kind of stressful thinking about all that stuff. And I guess the main thing for me, the kind of like social isolation has made my mood affected more by YouTube, which isn't healthy. Like the analytics, my channel, and obviously in February, I think my channel actually went through a really bad period where I was losing subscribers for the first time, like ever basically. And that really affected me because I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Is it because of like my quality being worse because I'm away? Do I have less motivation? Are my videos worse? Can I sustain this YouTube channel for the future as a full-time job? So that's been really hard. And of course, what's been hard is I set a lot of goals for myself at the start of the year, and I guess they were pretty optimistic. And I guess my message to people is, if you're building a social media following, maybe don't make your goals like literal metrics. So for me personally, at the start of the year, I wanted to hit 100k subs by the end of the year. I wanted to hit 10k followers on Twitter, and I wanted to hit 3,000 followers on Instagram, and I failed all of those. I guess the closest I've got is I've got like 9,700 followers on Twitter. I nearly have 90,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I only have like 2,000 followers on Instagram. And I feel like me having those goals has made it harder to deal with not really being able to achieve those goals this year, especially the YouTube subscriber one. So that's been really hard, and it's just affected my enjoyment of doing this. Like, I do really like doing YouTube as a job, but I would say there's a lot of issues around this year that have made it really, really hard. And also just being my second year of doing it full time, it's just like you don't know what your audience want. Like, I make videos that would have done really well last year that don't do well this year, and then I have to remind myself that although the number keeps growing, a lot of people leave the channel, a lot of people unsubscribe, and new people come in for new videos I've made. So it's just hard to keep that in mind, like what your audience want to see. Like, I'm a guy who's happy to talk about most things, right? I like making videos about so many different things, but that has been really hard. And I only bring that all up because I'm actually a bit annoyed at how much YouTube has affected my mood this year. Like, I can remember times being in Spain, like I should have been having an amazing time, like all the time. And I was just feeling terrible about myself, right? I was feeling terrible about my channel. I wasn't sleeping properly. And it was just like not a nice experience sometimes. But I know in the future, I'll look back on this year and think about how amazing it was. You know, I went to so many cool places in Spain, like traveled a lot in southern Spain, obviously traveled throughout Southeast Asia. I'm still doing it. I'm doing it until April next year. I'm just trying to have a better mindset about it. Like, subscribers aren't everything. If I'm building a sustainable YouTube channel throughout the years and traveling the world, like many people like love to do that and stuff, I should just be grateful and focus on that. My goal should be more like, I don't know, collaborate more with people or do more like vlogging stuff for your Instagram reels and stuff. Not like I want to hit X, Y, and Z, because I've learned this year that YouTube is not just infinite growth, right? In 2021, it literally was bang, 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 like keep going up until I hit 60,000 about by the end of the year. Where this year it's been like up and down, or like spike, flatline, and it's just been hard to get used to that reality. But yeah, this year generally has been really amazing for me, you know, massively out of my comfort zone. I'm not someone who even like wanted to travel the world. My girlfriend is really into it, so I'm grateful she pushed me out of my comfort zone. But it's just been hard with all the baggage of like having a YouTube channel, thinking about like, how will I sustain this in another country? And I guess maybe my mindset was wrong at the start of the year. And I think in the future, I'm going to be grateful for this year for really just opening my eyes and giving me more perspective about my YouTube channel and just trying to detach it more from my mood. But like I said, it is very hard. And it's obviously just you and your girlfriend without like the social circle you have back home, without like the general normal things you do, and even like things like food. It's all just a bit more stressful to live in these countries than it is in your own home country. And I think that added to a lot of stress I generally had about my YouTube channel. And it also meant I couldn't really forget about my YouTube channel as much. I was just checking it way too much, checking the analytics, checking the comments, and I really don't want to do that in the coming year. But maybe I'll do a live stream talking about this stuff. But yeah, I've been to loads of amazing countries, loads of amazing places, seen so many cool things while I've been out here. And like I said, if you want to see those too through my own eyes, go check out my Instagram. I've been really documenting every place I've gone in like video and picture form. And I'm glad I've done that because it's fun to look back and see what I was doing. So 2022 overall has been, in theory, like a really good year for me. My YouTube channel is still growing. Everything's getting better on my YouTube channel. More views, more subscribers, more monthly views and stuff like that. And obviously I got to travel the world and live in like several different countries already. And I'm going to live in even more countries next year. Like, for a lot of people, that is their entire dream in life. And they can't do it because of the realities of like our economic system, capitalism. I recognize I'm insanely privileged to do these things, but also these things aren't my idea of stuff that is relaxing. So my stress levels have just been really, really heightened this year. Generally not made better by YouTube, but it has been fun bringing you guys content. Thanks so much for all the messages, all the comments, all the likes. I do pretty much read everything, even if I don't respond to everything. And let's just hope in 2023, I both have a healthier relationship with my YouTube channel, I have more fun making content, and I continue to grow the channel and get a wider audience to watch my stuff. Because at the end of the day, like I said in my video coming out next week, this is literally the job I've always wanted to do since I was a teenager. And now I'm doing it. And there are elements of it that have made me not enjoy it. And that's just on me to like rewire my brain to make sure it doesn't affect me as much. Anyway, let me know what your favorite moment of 2022 is. Let me know if there are any goals you want to achieve yourself in the next year. And just thank you for the support this year. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.